Diddy is requesting a new trial or a full acquittal on his charges. Diddy was found guilty on 2 transportation to engage in prosta charges, and he filed a motion late last night saying that he wants an acquittal or a new trial on those 2 charges alone. Go on to say, since the government arrested Sean Combs last September, it has painted him as a monster. For months, prosecutors accused him of running a 20-year racketeering enterprise and trafficking multiple women. But his 2-month trial showed that these charges were not supported by credible evidence, and the jury rejected them. Mr. Combs now stands convicted of only 2 prosta counts under the Mann Act. It doesn't require proof of coercion, threats, or fraud. The government told the jury it had to convict so long as Mr. Combs arranged for a longtime girlfriend or a paid male escort or entertainer to travel across state lines to get together and have physical relations. And that is what the jury convicted him for. To our knowledge, Mr. Combs is the only person ever convicted of violating the statute for conduct anything like this. It is undisputed that he had no commercial motive, meaning he didn't get any money for this, and all involved were adults. The men chose to travel and engage in activity voluntarily, and the verdict confirms that the women were not vulnerable, exploited, or trafficked, or assaulted during the freak-offs or hotel nights. And Mr. Combs never had physical relations with these paid workers. We're aware of no other cases in which a person was convicted under the Mann Act, even though he made no money from the paid workers, and he didn't have physical relations with these paid workers, and didn't arrange for the transportation with the intent of committing assault, trafficking, or a crime involving a minor. Now they go out and detail every single reason that they believe that Diddy should be getting a new trial on these charges or a full acquittal of these charges. There was insignificant evidence to prove that Mr. Combs transported anyone with the intent to engage in prosta. Mr. Combs was convicted of knowingly transporting an individual in interstate commerce with the intent that such individual engage in prosta. The Mann Act itself does not define the term of paid workers. A host of serious constitutional problems would be presented if the statute were interpreted to cover the conduct at issue. Performances in which adult male escorts and Mr. Combs' adult girlfriends engaged in physical activities while he observed. This evidence showed Mr. Combs experienced these performances not as a typical John, but rather as a voyeur who filmed these performances. And they go on to say that the whole Mann Act should be narrowed to avoid serious due process of the First Amendment and federalism problems. They go on to say how Cassie Ventura testified very early in the relationship that Mr. Combs explained the concept of voyeurism, which involved him observing Cassie Ventura have physical relations with somebody else. In turn, Cassie Ventura would tell the escorts before the freak-offs that Mr. Combs was into something called voyeurism, and he liked to watch me with another man. Jane testified to the same pattern of Mr. Combs observing her with another man, although she described it not as voyeurism per se, but rather that Mr. Combs was being a cuck. A man who is in a relationship with a woman, he's turned on by watching his woman have physical relations with another man. There is insignificant evidence that Mr. Combs transported anyone with the intent to engage in prosta, even if it includes any money for physical relations. Diddy alleges that the government's proof failed to establish that he transported Cassie Ventura, Jane, or any male escorts or entertainers with the intent to engage in prosta. Evidence did not reveal any understanding on Mr. Combs' part that the transportation was for the purpose of having physical relations for money. To the contrary, the proof showed that Mr. Combs hired the services of legitimate escorts advertised through lawful businesses offering male companionship in exchange for a fee. Cassie Ventura testified that she found escorts through an escort service called Cowboys for Angels, which had escorts in all major U.S. cities. Combs also corresponded with other Cowboy for Angel representatives, including Bridget, who referred him to the company's website regarding an individual's escort that he might hire. Bridget and Mr. Combs even discussed rates. The two spoke about the escort's interstate travel, and Bridget made clear about the payment that could be cash or via cash apps like Venmo. Bridget advised the company has to dot every I and cross every T to make sure we stay within the specific guidelines to be clear about what the agency offers and sells. He made it clear to Mr. Combs that our agency provides time and companionship. "You're paying for the gentleman's time." Miss Ventura also found the escorts through a male dancer services, including Hawkomania, which Hayes testified does not allow prosta. And Jane twice found men by reaching out to actors for the couple's favorite adult films. Evidence revealed that Mr. Combs' perspective, these services were entirely lawful and legitimate, operating in broad daylight for the world to see and enjoy. Indeed, Cowboys for Angels was featured on the Showtime reality television show Gigolos. Best for the government, Cassie Ventura gave conflicting testimony about why escorts received money. She testified that the escorts were paid to finish, to entertain, and also ultimately have physical relations with her. But before booking any escort travel, all that Mr. Combs and Cassie Ventura discussed is what they were doing or who's available. There is no evidence that they discussed the prosta or the payment for physical relations. Even if physical relations was foreseeable during a freak-off or hotel night, that doesn't mean that Mr. Combs believed or intended prosta would occur, or even if money was exchanged. The government only called 2 escorts who participated in freak-offs with Cassie Ventura at trial, neither of whom traveled interstate, and the government called no entertainers who joined in hotel nights with Jane. The escorts who did testify, Daniel Phillips and Sheree Hayes, denied engaging in prosta or being paid for physical relations. Diddy believes that this conduct was protected under the First Amendment. In other words, like many other Americans, Mr. Combs and his girlfriends were making amateur adult films. Mr. Combs was acting as the director, exercising his creative control over these performances that involved choreographed acting, role play, outfits, costumes, and staging. And he goes on to list a lot of different testimony throughout the trial, such as he was creating a scene or an environment. Hayes described the scenes as a movie in which Mr. Combs was the director. Daniel Phillips said that the activity between him and Cassie Ventura was escalating, that Mr. Combs sometimes asked them to slow down. "Now y'all stop and separate from each other. It's getting too hot, y'all." Go on to say that this is what all of the baby oil was for, so they were glistening or shining. Capturing these performances on video was the key part of the experience. On occasion, Cassie Ventura forgot to bring the iPad to the hotel. Jane even got Mr. Combs a movie screen for his birthday to watch their videos. The government introduced inflammatory evidence to prove the RICO and trafficking charges. Starting with the most notorious and inflammatory piece of evidence admitted at the trial, the Intercontinental Hotel videos where he was beating Cassie. The government argued that the video evidence of violence was admissible to prove trafficking by force in the RICO conspiracy and never suggested that the videos were admissible to prove the Mann Act charge. So it goes on to list all of these testimonies that are aimed at saying that there was violence in his relationships. He's basically listing all of these testimonies because he's saying that if he has a new trial, none of this should be in the new trial. This is only a partial list, but this inflammatory evidence that formed the lion's share of the trial would be inadmissible in a trial on only counts 3 and 5 if the judge gives him a retrial. You can see he is saying that the inflammatory evidence all listed above was not admissible to prove the Mann Act counts that he was found guilty of. He ends this whole motion out by saying the evidence on the surviving transportation to engage in prosta charges was not strong. Third factor is the strength of the government's evidence on the Mann Act counts. As explained above, the evidence was thin at best, as the majority of the government's case focused on their other counts. The government's primary goal was to convict Mr. Combs of trafficking and the RICO conspiracy. He is alleging that the Mann Act counts were merely a fallback and indeed would have not been charged under DOJ policy absent with the other counts. So yeah, now because all of this, Diddy is wanting a new trial on the counts that he was found guilty of, or he is wanting a full acquittal. But I'm sure we'll hear more about this soon. But for now, y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.